Hello there, and a very warm welcome to every single person tuning in to our show today. We're genuinely so happy you've decided to spend a bit of your day with us. You are listening to the Easy English Room, and I am your host, Henry. I'm joining you live from our studio right here in the heart of London. And let me tell you, the energy in the city this morning is just absolutely electric. It's one of those rare days where the sun is actually out. People are smiling a little more than usual, and everything just feels a bit more alive. I couldn't be more excited to spend this hour with all of you, sharing ideas, stories, and hopefully something that really sticks with you long after the episode ends.
And I'm Emma, also broadcasting from a very sunny London. And I am equally thrilled to be back in the booth with you, Henry. There's just something about these bright mornings that instantly lifts your mood, isn't there? It almost feels like the perfect setting for a fresh, honest conversation. Now, before we really get into the heart of today's episode, I want to pose a very honest question to our lovely listeners. And I'd love for you to really pause for a moment and think about it. Have you ever had a moment where you looked at a task? Maybe it was something quite big and intimidating, or maybe just a small, simple thing, and thought to yourself, you know what, I'll just handle that later, only to realize that a few days or even a few weeks have quietly slipped by, and that thing is still sitting there completely untouched, almost staring back at you?
Oh, Emma, you are speaking directly to my soul right now. I feel personally called out, and I'm sure so many of our listeners do too. I think we've all been there at some point. It's such a classic move, isn't it? It almost feels like a universal human experience. Whether it's that heavy essay you need to write for university, the kind that just keeps getting pushed to tomorrow, or a massive project at work that's been hanging over your head like a dark cloud you can't escape. Or even just something as simple as finally tidying up that messy everything drawer in your kitchen, the one you keep stuffing things into until it barely closes anymore. Somehow, procrastination finds a way in. It has this incredibly sneaky, almost invisible way of creeping into every single corner of our daily lives here in London, and honestly, everywhere else too.
It really does, Henry. And what makes it even more frustrating is the way it traps us in that cycle. You know exactly what I mean. On one hand, there's this voice in your head reminding you, you really should start this. Time is passing. The deadline is getting closer. But instead of actually doing the task, you find yourself doing literally anything else. And it's not even things you plan to do. You might end up mindlessly scrolling through your phone for what feels like 5 minutes, but suddenly it's been an hour or more. Or you go to the kitchen for a quick snack and somehow end up grabbing a third or fourth one, even though you weren't really hungry in the first place. And then, this is my personal favorite, you suddenly feel this strong urge to do something completely unrelated, like deep cleaning the windows, rearranging your entire room, or organizing your bookshelf by color as if it's the most urgent task in the world. It's almost funny when you think about it, but also a little frustrating, because all of that effort is just going into avoiding the one thing you actually need to do.
Exactly. That's what makes it so fascinating and a bit confusing at the same time. It's like this strange psychological trick we play on ourselves without even realizing it. It's not that we're lazy or incapable. It's more like procrastination shows up at very specific moments. It tends to appear when we're faced with something that feels a bit too overwhelming, a bit too uncomfortable, a bit too scary, or, if we're being completely honest, just a bit dull and uninteresting. And instead of facing that feeling, we escape into something easier or more enjoyable. And that is precisely why I am so incredibly excited about our conversation today. We're not just going to talk about procrastination in a surface-level way. We're going to really pull back the curtain on it. We'll explore exactly why we do it, what's really happening beneath the surface, the hidden emotions behind it, and most importantly, we're going to share a real practical step-by-step guide on how to finally break that habit for good, especially in this fast-paced world of 2026 where distractions are literally everywhere.
We certainly are. And to help us really navigate these complicated waters, and trust me, they can get quite deep, we've invited an incredibly special guest to the Easy English Room today. Everyone, I'd like you to meet Lara. Now, let me tell you, Lara is truly one of those rare experts who has this amazing ability to take big, heavy, sometimes confusing psychological theories and explain them in a way that feels simple, clear, and even enjoyable to understand. She doesn't just talk in theory, she connects everything to real life, to situations we all go through every single day. And honestly, Henry, chatting with her never feels like a formal interview. It feels more like you're sitting in a cozy corner of a local coffee shop, having a warm drink, and just catching up with a friend who really gets you and offers thoughtful advice.
I couldn't agree more. There's something very natural and reassuring about the way Lara explains things. She has spent years helping people understand the why behind their delays, why we hesitate, why we avoid, and why we sometimes struggle to take action even when we truly want to. And what's really impressive is the range of people she has worked with, from students here in London who are struggling with small, everyday tasks like studying or keeping up with assignments, all the way to high-level professionals dealing with massive, high-pressure deadlines where the stakes are incredibly high. Her insights have genuinely been a game changer for so many people, helping them shift their mindset and take control of their time again. And I have a very strong feeling they're going to be just as helpful for our listeners today.
Definitely. And as we always do here at the Easy English Room, we're going to make sure this is a true double win for you. Not only will you walk away with these powerful productivity strategies and practical ideas you can start using right away, but we'll also be highlighting some fantastic new English words and phrases throughout the conversation. We'll explain them naturally as we go, so you won't even feel like you're studying. It'll just happen as part of the discussion. So by the time we finish today, you're not only going to feel more motivated and more confident about tackling your goals, but your English vocabulary is going to get a really nice boost as well. Lara, the floor is yours. We're really excited to hear your perspective on all of this.
Well, thank you both so much, Henry and Emma. It is such a genuine pleasure to be here with you in London today. I've been looking forward to this chat all week. To really start our journey into understanding procrastination, I want everyone listening to just take a deep breath, settle in, and use their imagination for a moment. I want you to imagine a small, beautiful garden tucked away behind an old, weathered wooden fence. Now, this garden is absolutely brimming with potential. That's our first big word today, meaning the ability to achieve or succeed in the future. The soil is dark and rich, the London sunlight is hitting it with a gorgeous golden glow, and there's even a peaceful little stream bubbling nearby. It's the perfect place for life to thrive. But here's the problem. The garden has been left completely untouched. Days turn into weeks, and weeks turn into months, and not a single seed is planted. Because nothing is being cultivated, the weeds start to take over. Their roots spread deep into that rich soil, and they slowly start choking out any possibility of beautiful flowers or fresh vegetables growing there. The gardener knows in their heart that the garden could be stunning, but every single time they walk past that wooden fence, they think to themselves, "Not today. I'll get to it tomorrow. Tomorrow, I'll clear out all those weeds and plant something wonderful." But as we all know, tomorrow comes and goes, and the garden stays exactly the same, overgrown and neglected. One day, however, the gardener finally decides to step inside that gate. They don't try to fix everything at once, because that would be overwhelming, which means something that is very intense or difficult to deal with. Instead, they just pick up a spade, lean down, and pull out one single weed. Just one. Then they plant one single seed in that tiny bit of clear earth. Now, to an outsider, it might not look like much has changed, but it's a start. And the next day, they come back and pull a few more weeds and plant a few more seeds. Slowly, the garden begins to transform. It isn't perfect right away, and it doesn't have to be. What matters is that it's alive again, growing and changing with every small step the gardener takes. You see, our tasks, our career goals, and even our biggest dreams are just like that garden. They hold so much potential, but when we procrastinate, they become overgrown with weeds, which in our lives are things like worries, doubts, and those endless excuses we make for ourselves. We tell ourselves, I'll start tomorrow. But often, in the world of procrastination, tomorrow never actually arrives. The longer we wait to step into our garden, the harder it feels to even begin. The weeds of anxiety grow thicker, the task starts to look more and more overwhelming, and we feel completely paralyzed, which is that feeling of being unable to act or move because of fear or indecision. But what if we took that same approach as our gardener? What if, instead of standing at the gate and worrying about the entire messy garden, we focused on pulling just one weed or planting just one seed? You see, procrastination thrives and grows fat when we focus on the whole giant picture and feel paralyzed. But real progress, that begins the moment we decide to take small, manageable steps, one at a time. There's a very famous saying, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. It's a simple truth, yet it's so powerful. When we're caught in the grip of procrastination, we often feel paralyzed by how far we think we have to go. We look at the finish line and it feels miles away. But this phrase is a gentle reminder that no matter how massive the journey might be, it always starts with just one step. Think about someone standing right at the base of a massive mountain, looking all the way up at the snowy peak. If they spend all their time focusing on the entire climb, they're going to feel discouraged. They'll look up and wonder, how will I ever make it all the way to the top? But if they just take one step forward and then another, focusing only on the step right in front of them, suddenly the peak doesn't seem so impossible. And the same applies to all of us. Whether it's starting a project, cleaning a messy room that's been bothering you for months, or chasing a dream, that first step is always the hardest part. But once you take it, momentum starts to build. That's the strength or force something gains as it moves forward. It's so important to remember that procrastination isn't actually about being lazy, it's actually about avoidance, the act of staying away from something because it is difficult or unpleasant. Sometimes we avoid tasks because they feel overwhelming, but other times we avoid them because we're simply afraid of failing, afraid of not being good enough, or even just afraid of not knowing exactly where to begin. Take Sarah, for example. She really wanted to start her own blog. Every single time she actually sat down at her computer to write that first post, she'd get hit with these thoughts. What if no one reads it? What if it's just not good enough? And instead of actually starting, she'd find herself scrolling through social media or reorganizing her desk for the 10th time. Deep down, Sarah's procrastination wasn't about being lazy, it was entirely about fear. When we procrastinate, we aren't actually avoiding the task itself, we're avoiding the difficult emotions that the task brings up. We're avoiding the fear of failure, the discomfort of hard work, or even just the boredom of repetitive tasks. But here's the thing, avoidance doesn't make those emotions go away, it just postpones them, and often it magnifies them, which means to make something seem bigger or worse than it really is. One of the biggest reasons people procrastinate is perfectionism, that intense desire to do everything perfectly, which often leads to huge delays and stress. We think, if I can't do this perfectly, why even bother starting? But perfectionism is just an illusion, a false idea or a belief that something is true when it actually isn't. No masterpiece in history ever began as a perfect finished product. Every great painting you see in a museum started as a rough, messy sketch. Every novel you love started as a very messy first draft. Think of Thomas Edison, who famously said, "I have not failed, I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." Imagine if he had waited for the perfect invention to just pop into his head instead of being willing to experiment, fail, and try again. The light bulb literally wouldn't exist. The truth we all need to embrace is that progress matters so much more than perfection. The first draft, the first attempt, that very first step, they don't have to be perfect. They just have to happen. So how do we practically move forward? Well, instead of letting procrastination magnify the task, try focusing on just one corner of your garden. Use the 10-minute rule. Tell yourself, I'm only going to spend 10 minutes on this. That's it. Suddenly, the task feels lighter. Once you've started, you might find yourself thinking, well, I can probably do a little more. That's the magic of starting small. Fear and that feeling of being overwhelmedly busy shrink when we break tasks into tiny bite-sized pieces. You don't have to write the whole essay today, just write one sentence. And it's worth remembering that procrastination isn't some new modern problem. Even the ancient Greeks struggled with it. They had a word for it, akrasia, which basically means the state of mind when you know you should be doing one thing, but you end up doing something else. It's comforting to know that humans have been battling this for centuries. Of course, in our world of 2026, technology gives us even more distractions, things that take your attention away from what you're supposed to be doing. But technology can also be a tool. Setting timers, using focus apps, or creating digital reminders can help you stay on track. Even the most successful people in the world deal with this. Take J.K. Rowling, for instance. She admitted to procrastinating while writing the Harry Potter books, often doubting her own abilities and delaying chapters. But she pushed through those moments of doubt, one chapter at a time. Her story reminds us that procrastination doesn't define who you are. It's what you choose to do next that counts. Remember how our gardener finally stepped into the garden and pulled just one weed? That single action was enough to break the cycle. It didn't fix the whole garden instantly, but it started the process. So, to wrap up my thoughts, I want to leave you with a quick review of the vocabulary we've covered. Remember potential, future success; overwhelming, too much to handle; paralyzed, unable to act; avoidance, staying away; perfectionism, needing to be perfect; illusion, a false belief; magnifies, makes it seem bigger; momentum, force of moving forward; and distractions, things that take your focus away. And finally, use an affirmation, a positive statement of encouragement, like saying, I am capable, to boost your confidence. Whatever your garden is, an essay, a fitness routine, or a big life decision, you don't have to tackle it all today. Just plant one seed, pull one weed, take one small action. The rest will follow.
Wow, Lara, I'm honestly just sitting here taking that all in for a moment. There's so much to reflect on. That was such a powerful and incredibly comprehensive look at why we get stuck, and more importantly, how we can actually start moving in a real practical way. I really appreciate how you didn't just explain the problem, but gave us clear ways to deal with it step by step. And I have to say, that garden metaphor you shared, it really resonated with me. I can already tell it's going to stick in my mind for a long time. I mean, every time I look at my messy desk now, or even when I feel overwhelmed by a long to-do list, I'm just going to remind myself to focus on pulling one weed at a time instead of trying to fix everything at once. It makes the whole process feel calmer, more manageable, and honestly, much less intimidating.
I feel exactly the same way, Henry. I was thinking that while Laura was speaking. It just brings everything back down to earth in such a comforting way. And I think what really stood out to me is how grounding it is to hear that even people we admire so much, people like J.K. Rowling or Thomas Edison, went through these same struggles. It's so easy to look at successful individuals and assume they've always been productive, always focused, always confident. But hearing that they also faced hesitation, doubt, and procrastination, it really changes your perspective. It makes the whole experience feel much less like a personal failure and much more like a shared human challenge, something we all go through, and importantly, something we can all learn to overcome with the right approach. And Lara, I also want to say a big thank you for the way you naturally introduced those fantastic vocabulary words throughout your explanation. It didn't feel forced at all. It felt like a natural part of the conversation, which is exactly what helps people remember and actually use new language. I think our listeners are really going to benefit from terms like momentum and akrasia. Not only are they useful for understanding this topic, but they're great words to add to everyday English, especially when talking about habits, motivation, and personal growth.
They absolutely will, Emma. Those are the kinds of words that don't just sound impressive, they actually help you express your thoughts more clearly and more precisely. And Lara did such a brilliant job connecting them to real-life situations. Well, everyone, as much as we'd love to keep this conversation going, That just about wraps up our episode for today here at the Easy English Room. It's been such a rich and insightful discussion from start to finish. We truly hope you've enjoyed this deep dive into the psychology of procrastination. And more importantly, we hope you're walking away with some practical tools and fresh ideas to help you take that very first step, whatever that step may be for you personally. Whether it's something big or small, what matters most is simply beginning.
Yes, thank you all so much for spending your morning with us. We really appreciate you choosing to be here. It means a lot to us to be part of your learning journey. And if you found this episode helpful, or if even one idea resonated with you, please don't forget to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an update. We've got many more conversations like this coming your way. And definitely make sure to download the episode PDF. As well, it includes all the key takeaways we discussed today, plus that wonderful vocabulary list Laura shared. It's a great resource to review later, and it can really help you stay motivated and keep everything fresh in your mind.
And just remember before we go, something simple but very important. The absolute best way to beat procrastination is simply to start small. You don't need to do everything at once, and you don't need to be perfect. Whether that means learning just one new English phrase today, reviewing a few words from the episode, or finally finishing a task you've been putting off for days or even weeks, every small action counts. Progress builds step by step. And don't worry, you're not doing this alone. We're going to be right here with you every single week, guiding you as you continue to build both your skills and your confidence over time.
We can't wait to see you in the next episode. Until then, take that first step, no matter how small it may seem. Stay consistent with your efforts and keep moving forward at your own pace. Remember, real progress doesn't happen overnight, but it does happen when you keep showing up again and again. Keep going, keep learning, and keep believing in your ability to improve, one small action at a time.
Bye for now, everyone. Take care of yourselves, stay positive, and we'll be right here waiting for you next time. And as we always say here in the studio,
Happy learning! Your progress doesn't have to end here. Keep that momentum going.